What is happening at J Gaming Dude here, and Microsoft has made the FTC mad. So the Federal Trade Commission in the US is filing complaints against Microsoft because of what Microsoft has done in relation to Xbox Game Pass, increasing the price by removing a tier, by discontinuing a cheaper price tier in favor of bringing in a higher price tier that doesn't allow day one first party titles to be part of the offering that is presented as part of Game Pass, and increasing the price of Ultimate and PC. So that's kind of what's happening with sort of Xbox Game Pass. If you didn't truly catch all of that, trust me when I say most fans of the platform don't seem to have done so either, but that is not really something that I can prove, so you can kind of just take that for whatever it's worth. That being said though, Microsoft did say as part of the acquisition merger that they wouldn't increase the price of Game Pass post-merger of Game Pass, and ultimately that is kind of what's happened, causing a huge stir between Microsoft and the FTC, because it was allowed to go through under some conditions of things that they've been saying. When I say they, I'm referring to Microsoft, because Microsoft says a lot, but they don't actually follow up their words with actions. They said that they would not increase the price of Game Pass post Activision acquisition. But the thing is that Activision has now been acquired, and Game Pass has actually had its price increased. And so this, by all accounts, is a bad look. So now FTC is in fact putting a complaint through regarding this and other things that have been going on regarding Microsoft, with like letting go of a lot of staff after the acquisition of Activision and things like that. But more specifically this time around, it's for Game Pass. So after Microsoft raised the price of Xbox Game Pass, much to the dismay of fans, the FTC voiced dissent. And of course they would, because I feel like Microsoft and the FTC will just never ever get along, because Microsoft is trying to do whatever they can in the business area to try and grab a hold of as much of their competition as they can through just buying them through sheer money. And then you've got FTC trying to stop them. Again, this kind of goes back to like the browser wars of the early 2000s, where every computer you buy has the Microsoft operating system on it, and guess what? Everyone is going to use Internet Explorer as a result. That being said though, calling the new version of the subscription a degraded product, Game Pass is removing its $11 a month tier, console Game Pass tier, and leaving customers who want to continue using their membership with the much pricier $20 Game Pass Ultimate tier or the new $15 Game Pass Standard tier. The FTC believes Game Pass Standard is a degraded product because it gets rid of many of the games people are buying the service for, while allegedly harming consumers through an all-around price increase. And that is absolutely a fact, because again, the difference between the $11 a month Game Pass console Game Pass tier included day one first party titles. The $15 a month Game Pass Standard tier does not include day one games. So effectively, it is a lesser product at a higher price while increasing the price of Ultimate by $3. Now, I talked about all of this as part of my video, which I'm going to link below in the description, about how Game Pass is a failure. And so Microsoft has responded to FTC's filing about Xbox Game Pass increases. It calls the FTC letter a misleading extra record around the facts, and says the FTC is wrong to call Game Pass Standard a degraded version because it includes multiplayer. Wait, what? Hold on, what's this about multiplayer? Misleading. Mini quick to point out that initially Game Pass Ultimate included multiplayer, okay, at the price of $15, but now the service has jumped to $20 for Standard. Many are struggling to understand Xbox logic that this is anything but a worse version of the deal. It is a worse version. Like, many are struggling to understand. Hell, I'm sitting here reading the article and also like reading the tweet from which, like, the last little bit that I said. Like, it is by all accounts a worse version. 100% that is the case. And then this is a tweet by Tom Warren following his initial one. The FTC is calling Microsoft's new product Game Pass standard tier degraded, and is in a filing with the US Court of Appeal. So they're trying to appeal to the for the Ninth Circuit. The FTC claims Microsoft is exercising market power post-merger of Activision Blizzard. That absolutely does feel like it's the case, because sure, they haven't brought Activision games onto... Well, they have to some extent. Like, I think Diablo 4 should already be on Game Pass. Again, while I'm not 100% sure what games are on Game Pass, because I personally have not actually used the product at all, let alone in the last couple of months, but I'm pretty sure Activision games are slowly now appearing on there, starting with Diablo 4. That being said, though, we know for a fact that Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is absolutely going to be on there on the day of release. So that shouldn't be a surprise. But I think reading through this document here, 17% year-over-year increase, so that was the whole increase from $17 a month to $20 for the Game Pass Ultimate subscription. This all being in USD, by the way, just in case if you live in another country, because we're looking at documentation filed under the US system, but looking at things... yeah, so FTC quick to signal its disapproval, which of course I myself was also thinking kind of a similar thing, but of course Microsoft did end up getting their way ultimately in the end. A lot has changed since then, and the merger ultimately went through as Microsoft triumphantly announced with a trailer in 2023, but it appears it can't be helped but continue to draw concern of the FTC. Gamers have further pointed out that since the merger has closed, the concern that Microsoft is following through on the things that the FTC feared it would if left unrestrained. Several smaller businesses have closed because Microsoft felt they were no longer commercially viable. Bethesda studios have began to unionize, and workers are pushing for better practices. Xbox continues to defend its practices, but the FTC continues to make a compelling case. So it's interesting to consider because, again, several smaller businesses were closed because Microsoft felt they were no longer commercially viable. Pretty much is talking about the closure of studios like Tango Gameworks, Alpha Dog Studios, Roundhouse, and there was one more that was among the four under the, I want to say, what was it? No, that's under the Bethesda umbrella. That's what I meant to say. Yes, under the Bethesda umbrella, 4 studios were closed down, and that was really, really unfortunate. What makes it worse is that they're actually really, really good. A really good studio that was under there in the name of Tango Gameworks, which I will never ever forgive Microsoft for closing, just as I do not forgive Sony for closing Japan Studios and London Studios. Japan Studios being unique, quirky Japanese, very Japanese titles that you would never see a Western developer ever make, whether it be stuff like Katamari or just anything along those lines, Nobi Nobi Boy, and other games within that ilk. Yes, I just gave out a couple of really, really random, really stupid examples, but it doesn't change the fact that they were a bastion of creativity from games like Hohokum and things like that. That being said, though, London Studios was more so doing a lot of experimentation with hardware, whether it be in relation to SingStar, whether it be in relation to the VR space. Like, they did a lot of great stuff in that area, so they will be missed, even though they were more of a support studio than a leading development studio. But even so, Microsoft has certainly made a lot of decisions that make me scratch my head and question why this whole purchase of Activision Blizzard was even done in the first place. Because again, they're going back on their word by letting people go when they said post-acquisition they wouldn't, which they did at the beginning of this year specifically, and even now with the closure of those studios that I mentioned. The fact that they don't find those studios to be viable anymore and closing them down ultimately, which again I guess is just 2 points that kind of lead to the same area of just letting people go in general. The fact that they said they would not increase the price of Game Pass after the Activision acquisition, which post-acquisition, they have absolutely increased the price of Ultimate and removed the standard, well, not the standard, but like the console tier of Game Pass in favor of the standard tier being a replacement, and the fact they're also trying to stop people from being able to stack multiple subscriptions to be able to try and keep the cheaper price for as long as humanly possible. But yeah, that is all really, really unfortunate and sucky stuff. And the fact that like paying $20 a month for a subscription means you would be by all accounts paying $240 a year, and that just does not seem like it's worth it. Yeah, if you were to buy maybe say $370 games, that would equal $210. Is it still worth it for those of you that don't have a lot of games and would rather never buy games, and you're just more than happy to rent at $240 a USD a year? Then yeah, this probably could be for you. But for people who, like myself, who just have like hundreds of games like owned, that's in the closet pretty much, of physical copies of titles, it just does not seem like a viable alternative. Like for myself, I do have PlayStation Plus, but I have the lowest tier, which I think I might have mentioned before, and I don't see any reason why I would never need to buy a higher tier, because I have all the games that I would ever want, ever need, and if I do want one, I'll most likely wait for a sale where it's 60 to 80% off and just buy it digitally like that, or physically if it is available. But with that being said, let me know what you guys think about this whole situation. Do you think that Microsoft is in the wrong based on the stuff that the FTC have said? Do you think that the FTC is in the wrong, and if so, why? Because I'm gonna be honest, I think fans of Xbox are going to say that the FTC are wrong, even though Microsoft are the ones that are doing things that are making the FTC mad ultimately. And I am curious to see where this is going to go. Sure, Microsoft have called these comments by the FTC baseless, but ultimately at the end, the FTC hasn't said anything factually incorrect, and in fact, Microsoft are the only ones who have said something incorrect by saying that by promising some things before the Activision acquisition, and now what they're doing post Activision acquisition is kind of the exact opposite. I don't know about you guys, but that just seems kind of slimy, but that's kind of how business works in general. But even so, let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for 300 subs by the end of the year. With all that said and done, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.